Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, April 14th, 2023, and today we are going to be talking about President Donald Trump. But before we get into that, I want to talk about my new microphone. Hopefully I sound better. I got a brand new one, which is really good news. The one that I was using previously, which is a different iteration of the microphone I'm currently using, was broken. It wasn't working over the past 2 weeks, and I just got around to actually being able to, one, save up for the new mic. It cost around $200, which is something that I'm, fine with, but it is something that I wasn't able to do immediately. But now that I have the new microphone, I'm really excited, and I also think listening back to some of the audio that I already recorded, it does sound very similar to the one that I had previously, but I think I sound a little bit more crisp. You let me know if you think that this microphone is good. But enough talking about technology. I'm just really pumped. I don't know if you can tell I'm excited, but not necessarily excited about this topic. I think this is something that we've been expecting for quite some time. Not really too much of a shock, but the Trump indictment, something that many Democrats saw as a insane blow to Donald Trump's re-election chances, have seemingly increased his chances at winning the Republican primary. Now, this is sort of exactly where the Democratic Party wants the Republican Party to be going into 2024. The data is clear, as reported on by Politico, that the indictment makes Republicans like Donald Trump more. And looking at the surge for Donald Trump over the past couple of months, it has been very clear and evident that the support for Donald Trump has not decreased, but rather increased from where he was at the beginning of this year. Looking at the overall Republican primary polling data, let's see if I can pull it up. I don't know why I wasn't able to perfectly have it here. Let's go back to the latest polls section and I can pull it up here. You can see on the national level that Donald Trump's lead has increased. Ron DeSantis, climbing in the polls over the past 2 years, has seemingly decreased from where he was before. Now, don't get me wrong. Donald Trump is the only major contender in the race besides UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who for many reasons has yet to attack Donald Trump directly on the national level, but rather shifting to attack other candidates that haven't even entered the race, including Ron DeSantis. But that's a topic for a whole nother video. The point is that Donald Trump, the candidate, the incumbent president from 2016 through 2020, was the one who was running for re-election and was guaranteed this nomination until he wasn't. For a while, it looked like Ron DeSantis could reasonably defeat Donald Trump in a head-to-head matchup in 2024. What we are finding now is that not only will it not be a head-to-head matchup, but 3 other Republicans have entered into the race before Ron DeSantis has had the opportunity to. And it isn't just them. We can expect future announcements from other people such as Mike Pompeo, Tim Scott, people that have very large groups and bases that aren't necessarily enough to challenge Donald Trump, but enough to make them well-known names on the national level that the vote starts to split. And the thing is, Donald Trump, as the former incumbent, is still only polling at around 51%. Don't get me wrong on that front. Donald Trump does not have this deafening, all-encompassing lead that he should or did have back in 2020 when he was running for re-election as the incumbent. Being on the outside and being a candidate who has already lost a general election does not exactly make you super palatable to voters in the next election. But because of the following around Donald Trump, because of the loyalty that his supporters have, Donald Trump has been able to rise from the ashes, rise from a failed presidential re-election bid, and leading to yet another. So now here we are. We are looking at numbers where Donald Trump maintains a 27-point lead nationally. The moment that Donald Trump crosses over that 50% mark, he's done. He wins the nomination because he has won a nomination, namely 2016, with less than 50% of the vote. After everyone had withdrawn from the race, after all the major races concluded in the 2016 Republican primary, Donald Trump still only won 45% of the vote by the end. 45% for a candidate that did not win the majority of the votes, but was able to win a deafening lead over all of his other Republican contenders. The reason I remind you of this is because this is exactly how 2024 could shape up, and why Ron DeSantis' decrease in support is feeding right into this possibility, where Donald Trump isn't the exact favorite, narrowing around 50%, but because there's so much vote splitting amongst the other candidates, he's able to win either a plurality or narrow majority, because voters don't have somebody to consolidate around besides the former president. And I point this out too, because the very early primaries that are set to occur are New Hampshire, Iowa, Nevada, and South Carolina, and I want to go through those results with you to show you exactly how the early races shaped the race for President Donald Trump. Now, Iowa has been wrong for many, many years. In open races, Iowa has been incorrect at predicting the eventual winner of the nomination. But what you found here is that Donald Trump did, in fact, do quite well. He got second place in Iowa to Ted Cruz, who was able to win the Iowa caucus. But from then on, in these early primary races, Donald Trump dominated. And I want you to take a look at the delegate counts to see exactly why this vote splitting is so intense and so bad and detrimental to anyone that isn't the plurality winning candidate. You fast forward to New Hampshire, just a week later, Donald Trump got 35% of the vote. Well, when you look at the delegates won and the vote counts won by everybody else, it seems proportional, but keep in mind that the total number of delegates allocated out of this state were a total number of 23. Donald Trump got 11 out of 23, nearly 48% of the delegates, despite winning only 35% of the vote. Everybody else was split. John Kasich got 16%, Ted Cruz got 12%, Marco Rubio got 11%, Chris Christie got 7%, Ben Carson got 2%, Jeb Bush got 11%. You know, when you look at the combined vote share against Donald Trump, where does that bring you? 65% of the vote. And what we know from the efforts that were aligned with Rubio, Kasich, Cruz in the end was that they all were rallying against Trump. But they could not agree as to who that would-be nominee against him would be, and as a result, the vote split. But New Hampshire isn't just the case. What we know, though, is that in New Hampshire, Donald Trump is polling quite well. This is an undeniable fact. You look at the state of New Hampshire, when it comes down to primary polling data, you know that these early races are heading towards Trump's direction, where they previously didn't earlier on in this year. Again, an increase for the former president. But again, doing this autopsy back in 2016 can further explain even more to the next primary that occurred in South Carolina's winner-take-most primary. But guess what happened? It depended on congressional district, and when Donald Trump won all of them, he won all the delegates. Donald Trump received 32.5% of the vote. The combined vote share against him was 67%. And we know this from context, that it was either you were for Trump or you were against him. There wasn't this, I'm for Cruz, but slightly favoring Trump next. I'm for Rubio. No, these were, people really railing against Donald Trump nationally and making a consolidated effort to push him out in the final stretch of the primary season. Did it way too late. And as a result, because of this early lead, he built up an insurmountable challenge. South Carolina perfectly captured that. With 32.5% of the vote, he won 100% of the delegates. Ted Cruz received 10% less of the vote, but 0% of the delegates. Rubio, same thing, 0% of the delegates. This is dangerous territory for the Republican Party. Because given who has entered into the race, Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson, you have other people that are very much guaranteed to enter into the race. They could pull masses away from those not already loyal to Trump. And that is the exact base the Republican Party needs to tap into. And the final case here is Nevada, where you see Donald Trump doing very well. This one was a bit more proportional, so it was in fact better. But at the end of the day, Nevada ended up going to Donald Trump, and it led into a series of consistent victories for President Trump. So now fast forwarding to 2024, you start to see the danger. You start to see why people are realizing that Donald Trump is the likeliest nominee for the Republican Party. Even the political betting markets that went back and forth and at different points actually had DeSantis over Trump. And it made sense for the numbers then, no longer makes sense now. In fact, Donald Trump has taken a recent climb over Ron DeSantis nationally, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm looking at these numbers and I'm comparing them to where they were before. This doesn't do it justice for where it actually was. We can see in the polling data on Wikipedia, this is where you can see the real changes between Trump and DeSantis. You can see in the head-to-head matchups, let's see if the poll will go well here, you can see that at different points, DeSantis and Trump were fluctuating in and out of beating one another. But more recently, it looks like exactly where it was a year ago, where Donald Trump is maintaining a dominated lead over Ron DeSantis. In the polls where you see Donald Trump being taken out of, Ron DeSantis easily wins that. However, I will say, Donald Trump is running. This is no longer a real possibility. So what we see here now is that there is a clear lead for Donald Trump, one that previously was being challenged. One that earlier on in the year, there were a few polls nationally that showed extremely close races between Trump, between DeSantis, but now it is very much dominated by one candidate. And a lot of it does, in fact, have to do with the recent indictment. This is the masterful political play that this indictment has done for Democrats. Whether intentional or not, that's not the focus of this video. Whether intentional or not, what this has done has put Democrats in a uniquely powerful position where they are shaping the primary race on the GOP side while simultaneously shaping the general election. This indictment could not be better for the Democratic Party, because what's going to happen is, because of the claims that were made against Donald Trump, one, he has already been arrested. Two, he has this ongoing court case. It's something that is going to be looming over his head. It shows the Republicans, one hand, and this is not something that I think is true, but I think what it shows is to them that the Democrats are afraid. They want to lock him up in jail so he can't get to the general election because they are afraid of losing to him again. On the flip side, independent voters are looking at this and saying, why would I vote for somebody who I believe was rightfully indicted, who rightfully should be in jail, who broke the law? You look at the opinion polls on the indictment, 67% of the country is in agreement that the indictment had some verification behind it. You had some validity behind it. That was the V word I was looking for, not verification. 60% believes that Donald Trump, should be paying for these crimes that he committed. And that's something that Democrats are going to use to their advantage. So many people look at this and say, I no longer want to vote for Donald Trump. It doesn't mean he's going to lose in a landslide, but I don't think he's the favorite anymore. You remember, maybe you don't, but if you see my videos back from November 2021, December 2021, January 2022, February 2022, I would do these, infrequent videos about a matchup, a rematch election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And in most cases, I had Donald Trump winning. In most cases, I genuinely thought, because of the unpopularity on President Biden, that President Trump could be destined to actually be reelected should he decide to run again. I no longer think that is true. I think the Republican Party has been fractured, but he is winning them back. He's winning them back by fracturing his general election chances. It's sort of like the best possibility Democrats could have ever foreseen coming to a reality, where Donald Trump is guaranteed the nomination and loses the general election. Now, hold on. Sounds a lot like 2016, where Democrats wanted this exact thing to happen again. But what I will say is that Donald Trump has yet to win an election since 2016, and I don't think 2024 will be the first. We have to ground ourselves too. Remind yourself of what happened in 2018. Donald Trump lost the midterm elections for the GOP. What happened in 2020? He lost the trifecta. They lost the House in 18, they lost the Senate in 20, then they lost the White House in 20 as well. What happened in 2022? Okay, a little bit of a silver lining. Republicans won back the House, but they were supposed to win 50 to 60 seats, not 5 to 6 seats, and they lost the Senate. In fact, Democrats expanded their majority in the Senate in a year where the national environment was Republican +2. Why did that happen? Because of Trump's hand. Blake Masters, Carrie Lake, governorships, they lost too. You see that all across the races that were important, with very few exceptions. Now you're fast forwarding to 2024. What's happening? The Republican Party is playing back into the hand of a candidate who has not won an election since 2016. And might I remind you too, the environment that we were in with 2016, party fatigue, 8 years of a Democratic president, an extremely unpopular Democrat, not even comparable to the approval rating that President Biden has right now, which is exactly, significantly higher than Hillary Clinton was back in 2016. No matter what, Joe Biden is already at a better point. The point being here, though, that what we are seeing seems to be calculated. Calculated in the sense that it is working perfectly for the Democratic Party. Not to say the indictment was calculated, but that this shift, this all of a sudden resurgence, revival, as Axios puts it, for Donald Trump is happening. And it's happening at the perfect time. And now people are scared. DeSantis' supporters are worried he's launching too late. We know he wants to run. We know he's probably going to run. But those on the inside of the Florida and the national Republican politics are looking at this and saying, DeSantis was climbing. DeSantis was doing well, and all of a sudden, he is no longer. He might have decreased what seems to be minuscule, 6%, but the narrative that was told to us and sold to us, one that I perpetuated because I truly believed in it, was that Donald Trump had nowhere else to go but down. I did not believe there were voters out there that once they left the loyalty of President Trump's following, that they could return. Because if they were not loyal enough to stay with him through the months and months and months, why would they all of a sudden come back to him? Because at the end of the day, he is the candidate that has proven himself the most to the GOP and failed multiple times as well. He has put himself out there. He has not many more voters to sway and win over because either he has them or he doesn't, compared to Ron DeSantis, who still could be relatively unknown to some Republicans, or his policies might be relatively unknown. His electability might be relatively unknown. And he can win those voters over. He can take them away from Trump. But I did not believe that this was going to be the case. I truly did not believe we would be at a circumstance in which Donald Trump was gaining Republican support. But post-indictment, post-lack of a DeSantis announcement, the attacks coming against DeSantis by Donald Trump, these supporters might be right. That DeSantis is launching too late and that Donald Trump is dominating the headwaves, and he will continue to do so unless somebody stops him. But if I'm being honest, this feels eerily reminiscent of 2016 in terms of the Republican primary. But I also do not believe it's reminiscent of the 2016 general election. That is a nightmare scenario for Democrats, for Republicans, because it means that they may already be predestined to lose to a re-election bid of President Joe Biden should he decide to pursue it. So there is a lot here, a lot to unpack, a lot more future videos circulating around Republican candidates, Democratic candidates. We are going to be talking a lot about the 2024 race because it is shaping up now to be, in the most likelihood, a rematch of President Joe Biden and President Donald Trump. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2024 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.